Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's live IELTS class. Good to see so many of you on the weekend. My name is Adrian, and I am broadcasting to you this IELTS class live from Budapest, capital city of Hungary in Central Europe. Otherwise, I'm Canadian, and my hometown is Victoria in beautiful British Columbia. Hi, Tanvi. Hi, Afsana. Hi, precious Tazeen. All right. Today, IELTS listening practice and strategy materials, the listening audio, the exams, they're coming from our websites. So do join us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. All right. The listening in both of the websites for our 6 exams, it's the same because listening is the same for general and academic, just like speaking. But of course, the writing and the reading are different. So that's why I go to this one for general, go to that one for academic. And you can also get our books from Amazon, and you can contact me on my email if you have questions about IELTS or our products. Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. So don't be shy. If you have a question, rip me off a quick email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right. So today we're doing listening practice. Tomorrow we will do a members chat class. That will be a task 2 essay question. And for right now, let's just start off with our listening. So this is our listening. We're looking at listening test 1 from book number 1. So everybody get your pencil and paper ready. I'm going to play the audio, and we will just warm up by answering the listening section 1 questions. Listening has 4 sections. We'll do at least 2 today. And we'll warm up with section 1 just by listening and answering. So just some quick practice. We're going to use the audio from our website. If you haven't joined our website, it is very, very worth it to spend a couple dollars so you don't have to spend another $300 on a IELTS exam. And you log into your My Student account up at the top. Once you're in your My Student account, the 5th tab is your audio CDs for the listening sections. So I'm going to play the listening here, ladies and gents, in just a moment. Please do not write answers into the chat. They could be wrong, they could be confusing, and you want to be kind and give other students a chance to answer, okay? So just write your answers on a piece of paper. We will go through the answers together, and you will have a chance to show how well you did. Just wait until the end, okay? Hi, Marwa. Hi, Farheen. Good to see some members joining in. Okay, so here we go with listening section 1. My audio is maxed out. So if I'm playing this through a speaker and a microphone, so if it's quiet, turn up your volume or use a headset. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and...
This recording is copyrighted by 2 Think One Solutions Inc. and World ESL Tutors. You will hear several different recordings and you will answer questions on what you hear. There will be time given to read the instructions and questions, and you will be given a chance to check your work. The recordings will be played only once. The test is made up of 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Listening section 1. You will hear a conversation between 2 men as one of the men registers for a football league. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, the conversation relating to this question will be played.
Hello there. I'd like to register for the Autumn Men's Football League.
All right. In what town will you be playing?
I'd like to play in Chester, but I'd be willing to travel to Liverpool if I had to.
The man says he wants to play in Chester, so B has been indicated for you. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello there. I'd like to register for the Autumn Men's Football League.
All right. In what town will you be playing?
I'd like to play in Chester, but I'd be willing to travel to Liverpool if I had to.
Well, we have 2 spots left open on the team in Chester and 5 spots open on the team in Liverpool. There's a very good chance you would have to try out for the team in Chester. Are you a good player?
I consider myself a good player, yes. I have been to a number of the Autumn Men's League games in the past, just as a spectator, and I'm sure I would have no trouble fitting in.
Okay, good. So we will register you for Chester then. I just need to get some information from you, starting with your position. Where on the field do you prefer to play?
I'm a midfielder, although really I can play anywhere aside from goalkeeper.
Oh, I forgot to ask your name.
Right, I guess that's important. My name is Steve Trammell.
Would you mind spelling Trammell for me?
Certainly. Trammell is spelled T-R-A-M-M-E-L-L.
Right, now I need your home address, including your postcode.
I live in Chester, of course, at 452 King George Avenue. The postcode is MS868P4.
MS868P4?
Yes, that's right.
And your date of birth, sir?
The 8th of September 1986.
Okay. Now I need your phone number. Just a mobile number will do.
I don't have a mobile phone right now, unfortunately. I can give you my girlfriend's number instead.
That would be all right, I suppose.
Good. Her number is 329-633270.
Fine. I think that's all the information I need to gather from you. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do have a couple. First, when does the season start?
The season starts on the 28th of September, although your first game is later, I think. Let me check the schedule. Yes, your first game is October the 1st in Liverpool. Let me make a copy of the schedule for you.
Thank you. Could you also tell me how long each game is?
Each game has 2 halves, 40 minutes each half, so the game is 80 minutes long.
That's a little shorter than the other leagues I've played in. Games are usually 90 minutes.
Yes, our spring and summer leagues are 90-minute games, but our autumn league has only 80-minute games. I think it has something to do with the poor weather.
You now have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 6 to 10.
Okay. Can you tell me how many players are on each team? And I mean on the whole team, not just the players on the pitch.
Usually there are 5 additional players to the 11 on the pitch, so there are 16 players on each roster. We generally find that to be the perfect number. It allows for a few players to miss a game, but still allows lots of playing time for each player.
Yes, playing time is what I was worried about. I don't want to pay my money and then sit on the sidelines the whole season. Are there minimum playing time requirements?
Yes, each player must play a minimum of half a game, so you are guaranteed at least 40 minutes of playing time per game.
Wonderful. That puts my mind at ease. Could you tell me what facility we play at in Chester?
That information is on the schedule, along with the addresses of all the other facilities in the league. Here's your schedule.
Thank you. Oh, good, it states we play 2 streets from my flat. How convenient.
That is very lucky. Do you have any more questions?
No, I think that's it. Oh, wait, how much does it cost to register?
It's going to be £125 for the season, including all fees. How would you like to pay?
I'll be paying cash.
Right. Would you like a receipt? If you find that it doesn't work out time-wise, you can always bring the receipt back and we will give it.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your...
All right, students. And always use that half minute to check your answers, okay? Make sure you didn't miss any parts of the answers. Pay attention to the question instructions. Okay, students, now those of you who are watching this from the beginning, you noticed probably that I did something interesting during the instruction time. What did I do? It was kind of an important strategy, or I guess we could call this one a trick or a tip for the speaking part of the IELTS. What did I actually do? Hi, Sir Aman. Good to see you as well. Happy New Year as well. Hi, Mahe. Hi, Sudhir. Good to see some members in class. So what did I do in the first bit when the instructions were going on? Oman says, I was strolling through the questions. You're right, Oman. I was looking at the part 3, part 4 questions especially. I was looking at the topic of part 3 and part 4 and trying to get an idea of what part 3 and part 4 will be about, because those are more difficult than part 1 and 2, okay? So that's what I was doing, absolutely. When did I go back to review questions in section 1? Did anybody catch that? So what was I listening for? What did I hear when I said, okay, it's time for me to quickly go back and take a look at those section 1 questions so I know what's happening? It's actually, it wasn't by chance. It was very, very specific, my timing. Afsana says, I went back there as soon as the example for section 1 kind of started. That's right, Afsana. Yes, it was during the example. When the audio plays the example, you still have about 20 to 30 seconds before the answers come for the first question. So that should be enough for section 1, because section 1 is much, much easier than section 2, 3, and 4, okay? So absolutely, I waited for that example. Now, only section 1 includes that example. So this is an interesting strategy or tip for the IELTS listening. In your exam, if the examiner doesn't say, oh, don't turn to any other section, you have to look at section 1, then try to have a peek at section 3, section 4, even if you just catch the topic. That could really help you save some points and some answers later. All right, students, so let's go through these answers together. For the example that's given, we know that the man wants to play in Chester. That's where he wants to join a football league. Question number 1 was a little bit tricky. Don't panic if you didn't get it. Okay, that's okay. Just keep confident. Move on. What was the answer for question 1? Did anybody catch that? So what was the correct answer for question number 1? I'll enlarge it a little bit more here for you while you're giving me that answer. Marina says A. Good to see you in class, by the way. Asil says B. Majid says B. Sharon says B. Omar says B. Gabriel says B. A lot of you are saying B. Yeah, absolutely. The man says, I have been to a number of the men's football games, but just as a spectator. So he says, just as a spectator. So that was the key in what the man said. Spectator means just as a fan or somebody watching. And here the question is played. Okay, so this man has not played in the league. He has just been to the games and watched some of the games. So the answer is B. We did not hear 10. We did not hear between 40 and 50. So another way, even if you don't understand the word spectator or you didn't catch that, you should realize you didn't hear these numbers and you didn't hear the number 10. So you should be able to figure out that the answer is probably B by deduction. Okay, deduction is the skill of taking away the other answers. So in this case, B was the correct answer. Okay, that was a little bit of a tricky start, but it did get easier right after. So what position does the man play? Number 2. Let's go through these a little bit smoothly now. So what position does the man play? He says, I'm a midfielder, but I can play anything aside from goalkeeper. So the best answer here, C is possible, but the best answer is A. Now in your answer sheet, of course, you're just putting in the letter B for number 1, not 0. And for number 2, you're putting in the letter A. So B and A. And I definitely recommend to you students, use the capital letters. They're usually more clear, easier to read for the markers, so you don't lose silly marks for poor penmanship. If you try to do something sneaky where we can't tell if it's a B or a D or an A, you'll lose that mark, okay? If the examiner doesn't know what you're writing, you will not get the mark. So don't try to be sneaky, okay? All right. These were some fill in the blanks. Always pay attention to the instructions. Here it's no more than 3 words and or a number for each. The name was the first. That all came in order. So his name is Stephen. And then for section 1, they actually will actually spell it out a couple times. So be patient. Okay, so they'll say Stephen Trammell, and then the man says, can you spell that for me? And then he says, yes, absolutely. And Kung Su spelt it correctly as Trammell. The person says it's Trammell. Okay, so Trammell. Even if you don't catch the double M as an M, you should hear it when he says Trammell, okay? This has to be capital. That has to be a big T. You can use all capital letters for this, okay? Just be careful with your spelling when using all capitals. Okay, he lives at 452 King George Avenue. What was the postcode? Anybody catch that postcode? Again, postcodes and phone numbers are often repeated, so if you don't catch it the first time, don't panic. Just stay calm and answer, okay? It's Trammell, and it's spelt twice for you. So Trammell, Trammell, okay? MS868P4. Yeah, absolutely. So that is the postcode for this person. You don't have to worry about the spaces. It can just be all one. Same with phone numbers. You don't have to worry about spacing. Just put it all as one, okay? Again, use capitals, all right? Now, Prajim says, I heard MH8P4. Prajim, that's why you have to practice this and make sure you're listening to the British accent. On our website, we have extra audio for numbers, letters, days of the week, and it's all done by British speakers. So you can tune your ear for those British accents and pronunciations. Of course, remember that in England, there are different accents of English, so you need to listen to different ones, especially if you're going for those high band scores like 7 and higher. Okay, let's keep going. So question number 5. Match the time with the event. Choose the correct letter A to D. It's just a single question. You just put the correct letter here. the time with the event. The event is Steve's first match, and you had to figure out which of these 4 matches with Steve's first match. And the correct answer is yes, D. So a lot of you are getting that. It's D. D, okay? The answer here was D. October 1st. Bonus question, when does the season start? When does the actual football season start? Anybody remember that one? It's also in there. It's in there. The man says, yeah, I believe it was the 28th. It was definitely September. The registrar says the first game starts in September, but your first match is later than that, okay, because his team plays later. He says your first match is on October 1st. So be patient, okay? Just because you heard September 28th might not be the right question, so be patient. If the answer seems too easy, too good to be true, it sometimes is, even in part 1, so be patient, okay? The registrar says the league starts playing September 28th, but your first match is a bit later. It's October 1st, okay? So that was D. All right, so you got to this point, and then you had some more time to look at questions 6 to 10. And this is standard format for the IELTS. So for listening section 1, 2, and 3, you have some extra time, about 20 seconds, to look at the second half of that section's question. So here from 6 to 7. And that's another reason why you don't need to panic in the beginning with the instructions, and you can look at sections 3 and 4 during the instruction time. Hopefully, you'll be allowed to do that. There's no rule that you can't, okay? So here, you have time to look at questions 6 to 7. Timing in listening is very, very important. You have to practice your timing for the listening section, just like for the reading, just like for speaking part 2, just like for writing, okay? Timing is very important. IELTS is not just testing your English, it's testing your thinking, your timed thinking, your adaptive and critical thinking as well. Okay, let's look at these answers. So 6 to 7, it was complete this little table here. The league, it's an autumn men's league. The game length is 80 minutes. Players on roster, how many? How many are playing on each team? So Afsana says there's 16 of them. Sharon says 16 as well. Mahe, 6 and 10 minutes. I'm not sure about that, but 16 for sure. So 16 players on each team. And how many minutes do they each have to play? So what's the minimum playing time? What's the minimum amount of time that each player is expected to play? I don't see a correct answer there. And Sandeep Akhriya comes up, and Majid Alamsiya with the first correct answer. Mahe as well. It's 40 minutes. And if you want to be on the safe side, you might put in 16 players as well here, okay? Here, just 16 is okay because players on roster, you have the word players here, so that's okay. But minimum playing time, we don't have the word minutes here, and it is 2 words, okay? 2 words for each answer maximum. So if you put in only 40 here, you will not get that score, okay? Because you need the word minutes, and because it's 40, it has to be plural. So careful not to lose these easy marks, okay? Because I think many of you got 40 minutes. You just maybe didn't realize that, oh, I have to put the word minutes in there. So you have to put the word 40 minutes, okay? And use the plural. The abbreviation MIN here might not work for you. 40 min, maybe. Maybe they'll give it to you for that. I would be on the safe side there and just put in the word minutes with the S. All right, let's keep moving along. So now we have to choose the correct letter, multiple choice, A, B, or C. Why does the man say he's lucky? This is a little bit of an inferred answer. You figure that out from what they're saying. And yes, you're right. C, the field is close to where he lives. The man says, oh, it's just 2 blocks from my house, right? Just 2 blocks. 2 blocks, it means 2 city blocks, so 3 streets apart. So here's a street, some houses, another street, some more houses, another street. That's 2 blocks, okay? So the field would be on the other side of that 3rd street, okay? Just to visually see it. So okay, so here's some houses. Here's some more houses. And here's a street. Okay, so this is a street. These are some streets here. And the man lives probably somewhere here. Okay, so the man. And this would be 2 blocks from his house. So there's the field. So here lives the man. There's the field. It's close to his house. So he's happy about that. Doesn't have to travel very far to get to the games or to get to practice. All right. Let's look at the last 2 questions. Again, write no more than 2 words. That's what you're checking when you check your answers to make sure that you didn't miss the instructions. For each answer, what is the cost of the football league? So how much does it cost to play in this league? Oman says 125 pounds. Yeah, so you could do it as such. Okay, again, you need this word. You need the S. Or you could use the symbol. Make sure the symbol is in the correct location. Know your symbols. Use symbols whenever possible because symbols are easier and you don't make a spelling mistake. If you make a spelling mistake with pounds, like you go like that with an A, you'll get that wrong, okay? If you write pounds wrong, the answer will be wrong. So be really careful. How does the man pay for the registration fee? Last one. Yarbalov Saruyarov says cash. Cash is good. We all like cash. Cash it is. Yeah, absolutely. He pays by cash. And Sharon, if you say by cash, that's fine too. Prajim says, what if we write $125? You'll get it wrong. Okay, pounds are not dollars. So if you write dollars or if you write the symbol dollar, you will get that wrong. Okay, so they will not take dollars when it's pounds. Careful. And sometimes they do say pounds. Sometimes the conversation might use the word dollars. So careful about that. All right. Okay, ladies and gents. So far, so good. Now, how did you do? What was your score? So how many did you get from 10 for this section before we go on? How did you do for this? Okay, what did you get out of 10? Okay, Terry says, I got all 10 of them. That's great. Prince Ronnie says, I got 8. That's not bad. That's about the least that you want to get. Oman says 10 out of 10. Cigar says 8. Achtong says 8. So those are pretty good. Mahe, you say 6. Okay, if you're getting less than 8, you really need to practice, okay? If you need to get a nice high score in IELTS like band 6.5 or higher, then you must practice to get at least 8 for section 1. And the reason why is because section 1 is the easiest. If you're getting less than 8 correct in section 1, you will probably be losing more and more marks for section 2, 3, and 4. So I know that students who can get a 6.5 or higher will usually get at least 8 correct for section 1. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Okay, so what can you do to increase your band score? Well, there are definitely a few steps that you can take. Number one is paraphrase questions when you're preparing for the IELTS. So when you're doing these listening sections, especially section 2, 3, and 4, go through the questions before you listen and paraphrase. Paraphrase means to say the same idea using different words. We've learned that in yesterday's class as well. So rewrite the questions using your own words, meaning synonyms, antonym plus negatives, expressions like phrasal verbs, and descriptions. Okay. Why? Because the audio is usually a paraphrase of the question. So the more you paraphrase, the faster you will be to catch the audio and to catch the correct answer. And another strategy that you want to practice at home before you sit the IELTS is ask questions about the questions, okay? So these are basically follow-up questions. I'll show you a little bit, okay? And Afsana is saying, well, how about grammar? Yeah, grammar paraphrasing is good too, Afsana. Sure, jump back there. All right. So what do I mean by this? Well, let's take a look. So let's go to section 2. So here we have our first question. And imagine you're practicing at home right now. So this is the first time you've looked at this. There are a lot of listening exercises out there. We have 6 original exams on our websites just ourselves. I know there are 12 Cambridge books out there now, each with 4 full listening, so that's 48. So you can do a lot of this kind of practice. So what was the overall capacity of the Titanic? So if I were practicing this at home, I would rewrite it with a pencil. Use a pencil, otherwise you might make a mess. And I would rewrite this as how many people fit on the Titanic. Okay? So how many people fit on the Titanic? That's what I would write. Now, if I'm getting better at this, I should say, hey, is there another way? Can I say this in a different way from what was the overall capacity and how many people fit on the Titanic? Sure, yeah, let's try it a different way. What was the maximum number of passengers? By the way, when you're doing this, you're not just going to improve your listening score and skills, but of course you're also practicing your writing, right? So what was the maximum number of passengers the Titanic could carry? Okay, so that would be another way to ask it. So 3 different ways. And again, I'm doing this before I listen. And when you practice this at home, you will eventually realize that what you hear in the audio is very close to, or maybe in some situations, the exact same as your paraphrasing. So you'll be like, oh, hey, wait a second. That speaker just said exactly what I wrote down before I started listening in my paraphrasing. And that's great. That's your goal, okay? That's what you should do, all right? And I see some of you writing some paraphrasing there in the chat, and that's great. So Ashish says the total number of people that the Titanic was able to carry. Ashish, that's great. That's some nice paraphrasing. Okay, I like it. It's a fourth way to express the same idea. All right, so it's great vocabulary practice. It's great practice for English. And by the way, one shortcoming or one weakness that I find a lot of English learners experience is they don't use their English for asking questions enough. So they usually use it for saying an idea or making a statement, but not asking enough questions. So this is a great practice for just asking questions, improving your ability to ask questions. That's really important in language learning. Okay, so here we go. Let's do one more. What was the cost of a third class ticket? So how much did the lowest class ticket cost? Okay, that would be one. What was the price of a third class boarding pass? Okay, if you've been to the airport and traveled by plane, you probably have seen that on your ticket. It's also called a boarding pass. Okay. Krishna says, how much was the price of a third class ticket? Okay. Watch your grammar there, Krishna. It's a little bit off, but otherwise you're doing good. All right, so a couple of different ways to ask this question. Okay. Good. Now that other strategy is ask questions about questions. So paraphrasing is great. Always do that. And also ask questions about questions. So what was the cost of a third class ticket? Why was a third class ticket cheap? Okay. So if I'm asking questions, and again, this is practice that I do before I sit the IELTS to improve my active listening and comprehension skills. So here, I ask follow-up questions. So what was the cost of a third class ticket? Why was a third class ticket cheap? So that's my follow-up question. Why am I doing that? So why should I ask this follow-up question? So how does that help my learning when I'm getting ready for IELTS to ask follow-up questions about the questions in the listening section? Why would I do that? How does that make sense? What kind of a logic am I applying here? She says the worth of a third class ticket was, yeah, sure. Well, I'm just assuming, Asil, that a third class ticket is cheap, okay? Because usually first class tickets are the most expensive, like on an airplane. Second class tickets are maybe expensive or mediocre. And third class tickets are usually cheap. So I'm making an assumption. But hey, if I don't know, you could just ask, was it cheap for a third class ticket? Sure, maybe. Afsana says, well, you're probably developing your critical thinking. Yeah, absolutely, Afsana. And I'm also developing my predictive thinking. So predicting information, right? Because information follows logic, like what, why, how. So if I say, why was a third class ticket cheap? Then my answer could be, because rooms were small, no service, and so on. So it gets me thinking, okay? Asking questions about questions makes the cogs, the wheels of my brain turn and think. And by doing that, I focus on the information, I predict the information, so when I listen, then I can better catch what the person or the people are saying. Okay, that is the reason for asking follow-up questions. It's a different kind of practice. Don't combine paraphrasing and follow-up questions at the same time. Do these separately. I'm just giving you two different types of regular exercise for improving your active listening, okay? So do that at home. For now, let's listen and answer, okay? So I'm going to play the audio. I know many of you are very patient and you're very anxious to actually do some listening and answer this audio. So we'll do it just the same as for part one, okay? I'm going to play the audio again, ladies and gents. Please don't write the answers into the chat. We'll go through them together at the end. Just write them down on a piece of paper, okay? And give everybody a fair chance to provide their own answers. So let's go back to the beginning here. And again, the audio, these materials, they come from our websites. This is going to be CD1, track 2. Everybody's ready? Again, audio is max on my side, so turn it up on your end if it's quiet or use a headset. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Now turn to section 2. Take some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Listening section 2. You will hear a radio presenter interviewing a woman about the infamous ship Titanic. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the interview and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good afternoon to all our listeners and welcome back to History Now, a weekly programme that reflects on subjects of historical influence. Today we are going to speak with Dr. Andrea Smithson, an historian at the University of Glasgow. Good afternoon, Andrea.
Good afternoon, Peter.
What are you going to talk about today, Andrea?
I'll be talking about one of the most catastrophic events in maritime history, the sinking of the Titanic.
I can't wait for you to begin.
Thanks, Peter. The Titanic was an enormous ship. The makers called it unsinkable. From end to end, it measured approximately the length of 3 football pitches. It had the capacity to carry over 3,500 passengers, as well as the over 800 people on the crew of the ship. Despite its massive size and impressive capacity, the Titanic was able to cruise at a speed of 40 knots. This was in large part due to the 59,000 horsepower engine. Just how much is 59,000 HP? Well, in literal terms, it's like being pulled by 59,000 horses. More realistically, it's the equivalent power of 500 cars. On the maiden voyage that left Southampton, England, on the 10th of April 1912, there were 1,343 passengers and 885 crew members. There were 3 different classes of tickets for those aboard the Titanic. A third-class ticket was the lowest level ticket. At the time, it cost between £3 and £8. A second-class ticket cost about £12. A first-class ticket cost anywhere from £30 all the way up to £870. In today's money, £870 is over £20,000. You may be wondering what the people in the first class were paying for. They had luxurious rooms on the highest decks, delicious meals for breakfast, lunch and dinner, as well as the finest entertainment money could buy. On the other hand, those in third class slept in cramped rooms which were quite plain and small and did not have access to the fine restaurants and entertainment on the upper decks of the ship. Now I'd like to tell you about a few lesser known facts about the Titanic. Although there were 4 large funnels, or smokestacks, on the Titanic, only 3 of them were functional. One of the funnels was put there just to make the ship look even bigger and more impressive. The ship carried over 70 tons of food for the passengers, including over 40,000 eggs.
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 17 to 20.
On the night of the 14th of April 1912, on her maiden voyage, the Titanic hit an iceberg. About 3 hours later, early morning the next day, the ship sank. The reasons for the sinking are numerous. First, the watertight doors, which were supposed to keep water out, didn't work properly. Second, the night of the 14th of April was incredibly calm on the water. Icebergs are easily spotted when there are waves crashing against them. On this night, there were no waves. The strength of the metal in the Titanic was not as it should have been. The metal became brittle in the freezing cold and was easily broken by the iceberg. Another big factor was the inability of the Titanic to turn quickly. Once the lookouts had spotted the iceberg, the captain ordered the ship turned, but it was too late. If the ship had been able to turn faster, it would have missed the iceberg. One of the biggest tragedies about the sinking was that there were not enough lifeboats for everyone on the ship. In addition to this, many of the lifeboats left the sinking vessel with less than half of the people they were designed to carry. For example, the first lifeboat off the Titanic left with only 27 of the allotted 65 passengers. This unfortunate occurrence can be attributed to panic on the part of the passengers and crew. One can only imagine the sheer terror on board the ship that early morning. 1,523 out of the 2,228 passengers and crew perished that morning. Most died from the near freezing temperature of the Atlantic Ocean. Others drowned after being trapped in the lower decks. 705 people lived to tell their story, most of them women and children who were put on the lifeboats before the grown men were. Because of this, 94% of the first-class passenger women and children were saved, while only 14% of the third-class passenger men survived. Overall, 60% of the first-class occupants survived, while only 25% of the third-class ticket holders lived in the aftermath of this tragedy.
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, and again, remember, students, that half a minute you should use to check your answers, not look at the next section, because you can usually catch some mistakes when they're still fresh in your mind. All right, let's go through the answers together and see how you did with this one. So let's take a look at question 11. What was the overall capacity of the Titanic? Was it A, 800, B, 3,500, or C, 4,300 people? All right. Marwa Kaabi says C, and Marwa, you are correct. Okay. So yes, C is the right answer here. Sometimes in IELTS, because again, IELTS is not just testing your English, it's testing your thinking, your ability to combine, adapt information. So the audio says that 3,500 passengers and 800 crew. Okay, so 800 crew, 3,500 passengers. The total number is 4,300. So you had to do a little bit of math at this time. Now, you might think, wow, that's a lot of crew for 3,500 people, but these are the olden days. It's a steamboat with or a coal-powered ship, so it needs a lot more people to run than maybe a modern-day boat. All right, so C is 4,300. Number 12, what was the cost of a third-class ticket? Okay, so in some questions, you have to do a bit of math. I know, Amrit, might be tricky, but what was the cost of a third-class ticket? Yeah, it was between 3 and 8 pounds. Says that very, very clearly. The cost of a third-class ticket was between 3 and 8 pounds. A was the cost of a first-class ticket. So first-class ticket was much, 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 much more expensive. All right. Here we go. We had to choose 3 letters. Notice that this is questions 13 to 15. So you'll have your boxes like this in the answer sheet, 13, 14, 15. So you have to make sure to put the correct letter. The order doesn't matter, just one letter in each box, okay? So what were the 3 benefits of a first class ticket? Sandeep says it was B, C, and D, which is luxurious rooms, great entertainment, and high quality meals. Yeah, that's right. Those were the ones mentioned. So the speaker says they had some beautiful rooms on the upper decks, some of the best entertainment money could buy. So that was a descriptive paraphrasing for great. And very fancy restaurants with some fantastic meals, so high quality meals. So it was B, C, and D. Okay, B, C, D were the correct answers. Any order, okay, any order. Again, I know a lot of you, you're just typing, so you're using small letters, especially if you're using your mobile phone when you're watching this. But on the IELTS, I highly recommend using capital letters for multiple choice when you have the chance, okay? So use big letters. They're clearer for the examiners to mark, and they're easier for you to make sure that you're not making mistakes such as confusing B's and D's. Okay, here you had a little bit of a diagram or picture selection type question for number 16. Which of the following is the best representation of the Titanic? So notice that basically the difference here, it's simple. There's 5 chimneys or smokestacks here. Here you have 4 chimneys or smokestacks, and here you have 3 chimneys or smokestacks. Which one? What did the Titanic look like? Yeah, B. It had 4 smokestacks. Bonus question. There was something interesting about the smokestacks. So even though the Titanic had 4 smokestacks, what was an interesting fact that many people probably don't realize about the Titanic? What was something that was kind of like, oh, really? That's interesting. Wish they would have put lifeboats there instead of the stack. Oman Sharpov says, well, it was kind of for design. Yeah, Haifa, that's the best answer so far. So Haifa Lana says, well, one of them didn't actually work. So yeah, one of these was actually a non-functioning smokestack. It was just there to make it look really big. I think people back in the day, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, were still a little bit more about aesthetics or beauty or ego than design, and they should have just kept it at 3 and put some more lifeboats in there. But anyway, 3 were functional, 1 was not. That was an interesting fact. Here we go. 17 to 20, it was a flowchart type question. A little bit tricky because the order wasn't perfect here, but it should make sense, okay? You can almost guess these if you're using good logic. So it was an extremely calm night, so there was no something crashing against the iceberg. So here's the iceberg floating in the ocean, right? Here's the boat somewhere, okay? The Titanic with its 4 stacks. There's the iceberg. What was going on? There weren't any waves, that's right. So if you have waves hitting the iceberg, then the person who's looking at the water can see that, oh, okay, there's waves crashing against that iceberg, but there weren't any waves. So it was very calm that night. So it was very difficult to see the iceberg silently floating like a small mountain in the water. Waves, I saw some of you do this. It was good. You can use all capital letters. It does have to be plural. Waves are countable. Okay, waves are countable. So have that S, otherwise it's not correct. Okay, the Titanic hit the iceberg. The watertight something failed. What failed? Doors, that's right. And again, it's plural. So be really careful. Doors, not door. Okay, obviously the Titanic had more than one door. So the watertight doors failed. all capital has to have the S, okay? Plurals, singulars matter in IELTS. All right, number 19. Something left the ship half full. Many what left the ship half full? Afsana says lifeboats. Amrit says many passengers. Amrit, not the passengers, but you did put a smile on my face. I was thinking they didn't have enough food. It's a tragic event. I don't mean to laugh, but it's a funny visual that they left the ship half full. No, it was the lifeboats, and lifeboats is again plural, and it's a little bit tricky, Yana and Omar, because lifeboats in English is actually one word. Okay, so it's lifeboats. All is one word. If you write that as two words, I don't think they'll give it to you. I think IELTS is very strict. I think they will mark it wrong if you write it as two words. But hey, a lot of native speakers would make that mistake and write that as two words. So if you got the word lifeboats, even as two words, good for you. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's good listening, okay? Some of these questions, remember, they're testing for band 9, which is called an expert user of English, not just native speaker. Okay, so 1,523 people die. Very tragic. Most of them from the freezing cold temperatures of the what? Just boats, Marina, would not be enough. You'd have to say lifeboats. Okay. Atlantic Ocean. Sharon Diva says it's the Atlantic Ocean. And yes, O and the A are capital. Okay. Atlantic Ocean. Name. Part of a name has to be big. Okay. If you write a small O, it's weird. So big A, big O, safe bet. Write it all capital like Political Hub just did. Okay. So if it's all capital, that's fine. Atlantic Ocean. You can figure that out. If you remember that the Titanic was sailing from London to New York, coming through the Canadian oceans. The ocean between the UK and North America is the Atlantic for the most part. Okay. All right. So how did you do there? What did you get out of 10? What was your score? Remember, this is section 2. So section 3, section 4 will likely be even a bit more difficult. Keep that in mind. For section 2, you should get at least, I would say, 7 correct from 10. Okay, so Garima, if you got 8, that's great. Oman from the 2 sections, 17 out of 20, that's really good. Political Hub, 4 out of 10 on section 2. Gotta hang in there, gotta practice a bit more, bounce up that active listening. Okay. All right, students, so we don't have time for section 3 and 4 today. We will try to get to that next week, okay? If you want, of course, you can get all of this material from our websites, our academic IELTS website that looks like that for the login page, or our general IELTS website that looks like that. It doesn't just have the audio and the 6 full practice exams. It also has a fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, PC. More than 100 hours of video lessons in HD, as well as some live class recordings like the one that you just saw. Thank you so much, students, for being active and attentive in today's class. Remember these 2 strategies and practice for improving your active listening, paraphrasing questions as many ways as possible. Asking questions about the questions, okay? And if you have questions for me about IELTS or our products, don't be shy. You can always reach out to me, adrian@aehelp.com. And tomorrow we will have a members chat class, same time. Everybody's welcome to watch, of course. Members, Marwa, you're very welcome. Farheen, make sure you're in class tomorrow with the other members, okay? You're very welcome, Yana. Thank you so much, students, for watching. And remember, your brains are beautiful supercomputers. They are the most powerful quantum processing machines in the known universe. Never let anybody discourage you. Never let anybody tell you that you're not able to do something even yourself. Just keep at it, okay? Remember the wise saying, it's 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. So put in the work. You will get there. I'm here to help you. Check us out, ahelp.com, glshelp.com. Much love to all of you. Have a great rest of your day and sweet dreams to those of you who are getting ready for bed. Bye for now.